The only thing better than getting out of debt is getting out of debt and getting the money back. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. We're back for another quick take where today I'm saying the only thing better than paying off debts is to pay off those debts and get the money back. See, if you've never heard about the debt snowball before, I'll go ahead and cover that base just in case. Now, the debt snowball is when you find yourself in debt, you go about paying off that debt, picking out the smallest debt that you have, regardless of interest rate on any of your other categories of debt, but you just pick the smallest numerical amount, okay? The smallest credit card or whatever it happens to be. So you pay off that $500 something another, and then the money that you had been paying on a monthly regular basis, whether that was $25 or what have you, now you take that and you snowball that towards the next largest item. And you just keep moving up in size again and again, regardless of interest rate on any of those debts, until you have paid all of those debts off. And it's called that snowball method because the amount of capital that you have to throw at the next largest debt just gets bigger and bigger, like a snowball that you push down a hill. Well, that's a real classic way of doing the debt snowball to pay off debts. There are others that are more mathematical, and they'll say, well, no, you need to do this algorithm, use this particular algorithm that's based off of, yes, what the interest rate is, also how close you are to paying that particular item off. And it's fancier, and it is in fact more mathematical to look at all those variables. But of course, what we must recognize, and even folks like the Dave Ramseys of the world are really good about pointing out human nature. We want quick wins. So that's why somebody like a Dave Ramsey and me, I would say that if paying off debt is something that you're doing, it certainly makes sense to tackle that easiest debt first. Very practical. And yes, it is very gratifying to have a win and to be able to build on that. Because the human nature, well, let's preface by saying that it was human nature that got us in debt in the first place. And Nash says this best. His number one human problem that he says, this is at the front of his list, the first human problem that we have to confront, whether we're paying off debt or not, it doesn't matter, is Parkinson's law, is that natural tendency to spend what we earn, maybe even more than what we earn, okay? So we all must address Parkinson's law. We all must address human nature because it could be a problem. I mean, how did that debt get there in the first place? It's a good question. I'm not passing judgment. When I saw this infinite banking concept back in 2015, my wife and I had credit cards. We had student loan debt. We had a car note. So we had things that, so I've done this. We've used the infinite banking concept to pay off debts and recapture money. So again, see, I just naturally said recapture money. So if we could set aside this classic way of doing the debt snowball, here's the difference. And this is where the Dave Ramseys, they miss it, they overlook it, they don't know about it. I don't know. But here's the deal. Banking exists. Banking is a function. Think about your town. Aren't the banks the nicest buildings in town, best kept grounds? Okay. Somebody owns that. Somebody uses that. Somebody profits from that. So everything that we do is financed. Okay. Everything that we do is financed, even paying off debts. So if you decide that you want to pay off debts, my question to you is great decision. Great decision. If you want to pay off debts, great. My question is if you could pay off a debt and get the money back, would you be interested in that? And I'm not trying to speak esoterically. This is really, really pragmatic. If you could pay off debts and get the money back, why would you not? Okay. So we've got to recognize that everything is finance. We've got to recognize that. And when we do, we can recognize that, okay, what if I could, and this, again, I've already told you this has been my experience. My wife and I, we were that average family years ago for sure. And our first point of implementation of the infinite banking concept was to pay off debts and get the money back. Nash, in his own experience, you can read this in his book. I encourage you to read this in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker. R. Nelson Nash paid off most of $1 million in debt using this process. So it's in the book, read about it, understand it. But once we know that everything's financed, and once we know that this debt snowball method's very handy, very useful. But once we recognize that we could capitalize first before we get to the debt, pay minimums on your debts. Minimums only. No extra is what I'm asking you to consider. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm asking you to consider. Put a pause on making any extra payments on anything and consider this. Vet this concept, vet this idea. What if instead of sending extra money right away to the credit card people or the car people or whoever, what if first we capitalized an appreciating asset that we're going to own for the rest of our lives? Okay, so you got to think long range. You got to be able to think back paying off that first $500 or that first $5,000 or whatever it happens to be, because there's going to be things in life after that. So what if we could capitalize first? We could build up a private asset that we are going to own and control and profit from the rest of our life. What if we used that asset then and leverage that because it's ours, we own it, with its own inherent collateral? The entity itself, the asset itself, provides the collateral that we need, in fact, for this leverage. And we leverage that asset and use that capital to pay off the debts that we were going to pay off anyway. And then once that debt is paid off, what if our snowball was that with that debt being paid off, well, now we recapture that interest that had been going to that debt. And not only that interest, that future interest that would have gone to that debt, but now we have the power of the principal that had been going there as well. And we take that and put that back into our asset. And then when it's time for the next debt on our snowball list, we leverage our asset again to pay off the next largest. But then we recapture that interest. We recapture that principal. And we just walk our snowball out just like we would have otherwise, but by adding that one step, by adding that one step of buying and owning and building a private asset to take care of those liabilities. And Kiyosaki says that if you're familiar, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki says, let your assets pay for liabilities. Well, once you walk that out and you're done and all the debts are paid off, well, now not only are they also paid off ahead of time, well, now you still own the asset. When it's all said and done, you still own the asset, and all it's done over this whole time itself has gotten more and more efficient and profitable as well. So what does that mean for your next moves? You get to build from a place of having this appreciating, compounding private asset now for whatever happens to be next on your radar. So there's a better way to do the debt snowball. There's a better way to pay off debts. What if you could pay off debts and get the money back? If you'd like to have a conversation about how to implement the infinite banking concept into your household or your business or your investing, then I look forward to that conversation. This has been a great pleasure for me. Hope you have a great day. Take care.
Dave Ramsey got nothing on this. What voice is it? I don't know. I'm just not sure.
What if in first it... Did I just say that crazy? I just said that crazy, didn't I? Okay.